Welcome everyone to this Douglas Dialogues conversation. Today I'm really happy I'll be talking with Joanna Dukkipati, who's the co-founder of Think, Speak, Do community engagement and founder of Good Day Cork, which is a positive multimedia and event space. Good Day Cork presents uplifting Cork news, and we all love that. And Joanna also organizes events to amplify over-excluded voices to change the narrative. Good Day Cork is guided by values of grace and integrity, grit, gratitude, collaboration, and boldness, very much like that. And we're here with Joanna today to learn a little bit about what she does with Good Day Cork and the many, many wonderful projects that she is involved in, and also to learn about her plans for the future and what she's going to do with the good people at Cork, in Cork, and at Good Day Cork. So, Joanna, it's lovely to see you. Welcome back to Douglas Week and Douglas Dialogues. And maybe we just start off with kind of what inspired you to do Good Day Cork and how the journey has been so far. So over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Dr. Schroeter. Can I say that? Thank you so much. And it is great to be back in Douglas Week in this way. It's a pity that I can't do an event during Douglas Week, but I'm glad that you asked this. I was like, yes, great. So what got me going to start Good Day Cork, is it? I started it exactly where I'm sitting here in the kitchen of my house. And this was back in I want to say 2018. And I became a mother in 2016. And by the time 2018 came, I was like, what am I doing? I need to do something. And I always say this because this is exactly how it happened. I did a SWOT analysis in the car on the way to Grant's house, and which is an hour's journey. And by the time I reached, I birthed this magazine idea of a magazine because in the SWOT analysis, I realized that, okay, what I'd like to do, what are my own strengths, what are my weaknesses, and what I could do with that. And I realized that a magazine is something that you hold in your hand that talks about people in Cork and how incredible they are and how much they overcome to achieve something in their everyday life. A magazine about everyday heroes, because at that time there was this website called Board Panda. I don't know if people remember it. And that's the website people go to be like, oh my God, look how cool this person is. And look how great they did this. And I was like, why do we have to go all the way there to, feel inspired, to be uplifted? I wanted something of our own. And used the skills because I studied. I did not ever work as a journalist but then I was like, okay, I'm going to create this magazine. And how am I going to get the money to do it? I immediately started a crowdfunding campaign, raised the money and then some, and then launched the print magazine. And that was in 2018. And by the time 2020 had come, 4 issues were published, and shops were getting closed because some virus is in the air. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't print this year. Don't want to do it because of the distribution system that was in place. And so a print magazine became digital. And as it became digital and in the journey, understanding that there's gaps in how people are represented in mainstream media. And that's how the call to duty of amplifying excluded voices, came along for Good Day Cork. And then the events that take that duty very seriously. And now things are not normal. Things are very different now after 2 years of COVID, and the events continue, and going back to print. Going back to print, very excited about that. We went back to print last year, and every month a little zine would go out, just a paper folded into four parts and then sent out in the post. And then that was a lot for me. So consciously made the decision to gather new content in a way that suits the volatile life of my life, and then produce a quarterly, which this is the first one of the year. It's going to go out in the post today.
Wow. I love that. And it's called Reflections, if I saw that
Yeah,
right.
it's the Reflections zine by Good Day Cork. And yeah, it's do you want to see the inside?
Yeah, show us, share. I love it.
So there's it starts with the editor's letter, and then it's because it's so small, it needs to go into the post, and it should be bendable as well, because the
Yeah.
people who are subscribing it, they shouldn't have to. It has to be a very robust zine, and um, and I put a call out, and people responded, and it's black and white, and it's got essays, it's got a bit of photography. It's got this issue has a comic strip. This one's about algorithms. Can you believe
Ooh.
that? I love it. And then a little, and then some fiction, and another spoken word piece that was called Medusa's Serpents. And then another essay about words. Um, and then a little notice board at the end
I love
with
that.
few community events that are taking place.
Yeah.
And the back page just has an ad about Good Day Cork. And
Yes.
so so it's self it's it's self-published. This one doesn't have any funding, so it's self-funded in the sense we I trying to be trying to be as self-sustainable as possible. And so people's subscriptions make it possible to be published. That way, there's no censorship. That way, there's no like body shaming ads and buy this ad and all that jazz. And that is a goal. The goal is always to not be censored. The goal is always to be free of those kind of ads. Even at the start, the magazine, it was hard to produce big, colorful magazines because of the money, and to raise funds every quarter to be able to produce a really good quality big A4 size magazine. And then the container to get advertisements from people whose values aligns with the magazine is very limited.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I kudos for making the conscious decision also to go back to print. And I share the thought that, there's something to it to receive something in the mail. Everything is so digital and everything is virtual, especially after the years of the pandemic. And there's something so much to it created by the community for the community. And how can people sign up for this? How can people subscribe,
I just
Joanna?
go to the website on, gooddaycork.com website, and there's two options. There are three options, but then for this issue, you could buy just this issue if you live in Ireland, unfortunately, only in Ireland for now. Um, for 12.50, just this issue, which includes the postage. And but you can subscribe for 40 euros on the website for all the four issues of the year. Alternatively, people, if they're like, oh, I just found out about this, great. And you're like, oh, I can't pay 12 euro for this. What you could do then is to forego this one and
Mhm.
start putting a monthly contribution for the next one for
Mhm.
350 euro, 3 euro 50.
Cool.
So yeah, and I know it's such a complicated pricing plan again, but I think I'm trying to remember that different people have different situations, and I want to be able to accommodate everyone. And it's, many people are like, oh, you have to start saying things like support independent publishing, support this, support that. No, I don't think it's about supporting. It's about understanding the value of what a zine like this one brings to one's own life, and to one's own community. And, that kind of like, oh, give me a handout. It doesn't, I'm like, oh, no one wants a handout. No one
Yeah.
wants you to just support it for the sake of it. You want to support it, you want to buy it because people see the value in it. There's value in creating it.
Yeah,
And over
absolutely.
the years, I have found that I'm so notorious for getting people to just write. I mean, you do not have to be a professional high art person to be published in Good Day Cork. Just write. And I'll look after editing. And I'm one of those editors, like, I really love this piece. I can't bring myself to cut it, but I have to fit it in, and many of the writers have then I call them writers. They necessarily wouldn't, but I think they're writers because they wrote, and then that encouraged them to write more and just get involved in other writing spaces, and they get invited to write in other places. I think that's great success for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely, and encourage that, and especially writing is such a medium to clarify your own thoughts and reflect and discuss and with yourselves and your communities around you. And I really love that you're doing that, and I also love that people can contribute from the community. So I'm assuming that people can go to gooddaycork.com and also get in touch with you there if they want to contribute.
Yeah, there's the call for submission is throughout the year. There will be, of course, like, if deadlines for the next issue. So all the people who submitted for this issue, the people who didn't make it into this issue, I still kept their work on file to be like, maybe it would be something that's for the next one or for another issue this year. Let's see. Is it my tendency to please everyone? I don't think so. I feel that every as as much as possible to gather as many people's stories, and the call is very specific. The call for submissions is very specific. It has to be a piece that demonstrates allyship, solidarity. You've got to be a writer who is you don't feel represented, and you've also got to be a writer who is an ally of these people who are not represented. So it's very clear. So I'm always saying, you've got to be from an underrepresented or an unrepresented group, in whichever capacity, not just culturally, but also economically, socioeconomically, ability, everything, gender, everything. And then it's phenomenal the amount of people who take. And also remember that for this Good Day Cork call for submissions, there is no fee. I'm not in the position to pay people a full fee. However, people still sent in their work. It goes to show that we've all got stories inside us, and we only want them to be heard. We only want to be witnessed. And it says, some calls for submission aren't clear about payment, but the one I've put is very clear. There's nada. However, when I did the budget for this one, I was like, I'm able to give you something. And as in an honorarium, and everybody. And when I was able to do that, I felt like, wow, that's great. So previously, when we were printing, when we started, everybody got an honorarium. I still didn't call it a fee. I called it an honorarium. So raise to be able to guarantee that, comes with a lot of challenges. And when I'm doing it on my own, I found it was a lot of pressure. One of the values is integrity. And, integrity is very hard. But it is a value that I aspire to, and I'm trying to be as transparent as possible when it comes to the work Good Day Cork does. Um, so yeah, people value the transparency. Once someone said to me that, God, Joe, you're talking about payment. No one ever talks about payment at the start of a project. I'm like, of course we have, as women, we've got to talk about money. We can't shy away whether
Yeah.
there is money or whether there isn't. It's important. And I learned that of the very hard way. So I am very determined to constantly talk about what's the budget. Let's start with the budget and see what we can make do and where we can get additional budget to do things. What's going to happen? How are we going to do that? So
Yeah. And I appreciate that because, you know, especially I feel like integrity and transparency are such key and core values that we need today. And I know that some of those values flow into all of the other projects that you do as well. So, you know, we have the reflections zine, and we have, you know, some of the other projects that you mentioned. And I know that you've been very busy the last couple of years doing you know, different events. Most recently, I believe you did Many Tongues of Cork in February. And maybe you can explain a little bit about, you know, what you do or what you have done. Because I believe you started in 2019, but maybe you can just outline a little bit, you know, it's one of the many projects that you do, and this is the most recent one. So maybe, you know, outside of this really great work with the zine and with the, you know, the sort of community work that you do there, what else do you do, and what does Many Tongues of Cork do, and how was the most recent event?
Many Tongues of Cork was the first event that got created after the magazine started in 2018. It started because there was a huge gap in showcasing poets from different cultures. And many people know the story that a so-and-so festival called itself the International Festival of Writer, Poetry, whatever. And then I got really irritated when I saw the program because it was very much white. And it is international. I'm not saying white is not international. I'm like, so I wanted to do something about that. So I just started Many Tongues of Cork within like, I think within 3 weeks. I was like, it's happening. It's like, it has to happen. This can't, you know, again, that value of boldness. Like, gonna do it. And so Many Tongues of Cork. My friend in India gave the name for this event. We jammed on it for so long over the phone. She's like, call it, you know, it has to be something with tongues, like absolutely. Because it is a call for people to share prose poetry that they have written or that they like, which is in their own native tongue. So, you know, this city has so many languages going on at the same time. And there are some languages, like our own native languages, are not, you know, they're not as prominent as they could be, they should be. That's one thing. Second thing is also for people who look like me and who are coming from different cultural heritage, that the sense of belonging comes from being able to be present and to be an ambassador of your own culture, and language is one of those, right? And my friends and my parents are like, you can't even speak your own mother tongue, which is true. English is my mother tongue only because I didn't learn. Not that I didn't learn, I can understand Tamil and Telugu, but I'm too shy to speak it. And I'm like, well, nobody should be in that position anymore. And so I'd say that so there's that. And so that's how Many Tongues of Cork began. And since then, we've been part of the Ovale. Ovale hosts the Winter Warmer. So we've done a pop-up there. We've done a pop-up. Good Day Cork has done a pop-up of Many Tongues of Cork even during Heritage Week in Cork. And it's always about bringing people from different cultural backgrounds to show their language, to say poetry or read a passage in their language. It doesn't always have to be something that they've written themselves. And in that journey, I have made a few people who do not write in their native tongue to write in their native tongue. I even once even at UCC, there is that festival. What's that festival called? I can't remember the festival, but it's when all the departments at UCC showcase their work. And so I wanted to do a Many Tongues of Cork at UCC in academia. And my proposal was like, could we please ask a few not professors, but multilingual PhD people to talk about their research in their own tongue. And oh my God, nearly everyone who got back to me said, it's very difficult for me to explain these terms in my native because it's all in English. I was like, I don't know, go figure it out. You're a doctor, researcher, do it. and it was great. Did many people show up? No, but the people who spoke, they felt so, what is the word? So much joy to be able to talk. They took, first of all, they took the challenge up and then they spoke about it. So cut to last month's Many Tongues of Cork is inspired by Women's Day of 2024. The theme is Inspire Inclusion. And I thought this is the year to expand what Many Tongues symbolizes. It's not just the tongues of people from different languages, but also the tongues of people, again, who are excluded. So the meaning has grown. And that's the thing about Good Day Cork, you see. It's like a molecule, like a cell, and it just grows in whichever way. And I learned this word during COVID called being a steward of a place. So that's I say founder because it's layperson term, but in my mind, I am a steward. I'm going to be this usher person, like, oh, you want to go that way? Okay, let's go that way. It's like a child, on a playground. You want to, oh, let's go see how that happens. So the Many Tongues of Cork in this edition for 2024, and every time we're going to host it, it's going to include, the call is always for people from different age groups, from different gender identities, communities, and and always prioritize different languages as well. And it's, what I really like to see is the audience, their faces, because most of the times we don't provide translations if it's in a different language. The exercise is to get used to the sounds of a different language so that we don't get afraid of something that is unknown to us, because that's when the bias kicks in. So when we're at a shop, we're at school, we're in university, and you're listening to a group of people talking a different language, you can't be like, what are they talking, or making fun of the sounds of it. No, it's about, oh my God, look at that. I live in a city where there's another language being spoken. That's amazing. Another language is another culture, more rituals, more nuances, more understanding, more perspectives. It's incredible. And then getting people who are not, people who are non-binary to come in and talk about, not about their identity, if that's their choice, fine, but then to talk about pain, to talk about loss, to talk about climate change, to talk about love, to talk about pleasure, to talk about things like can't do my everyday work and how difficult that is, so yeah, that's what Many Tongues, that's the space that Many Tongues, that's the container of Many Tongues. And the audience are always, they always feel like, wow, that was great. And also the performers feel, wow, I got to share a piece of me, not all of me, but a piece of me. And I feel very honored that I can do it. Last year, we did a Many Tongues of Cork, and I arrived late. And I realized this is a great situation because the performers introduced themselves. The Anne at Firkin Crane just opened the door because everybody had arrived and I was late. So everybody just started making tea and coffee. They got settled in. I was not required. And that is incredible. It means it's so wholesome now that even though all I had to do was bring people together and they would just do what needed to be done. So I could have been absent and it would have been fine. And I said that in February as well. Y'all don't need me anymore to do this.
But isn't that beautiful how,
That's
you
what I'm
bring
saying.
people together?
Yeah,
And it
it's
is,
magnificent.
it's so important, right? Especially in times of division, which we are in so bad, to bring people together. And like you said, to not be afraid of each other and of our differences, but to, come together and learn from each other, share our experiences and see, how we can go forward together, right? And how we can create change and create a different future for all of us in our communities, and with each other. And I'm wondering, Joe, as I listen to you, I'm wondering, I know you have done Wild Ones Salon as well. You did one last year for us for Douglas Week, and Many Tongues of Cork. And I know that you're very busy behind the scenes all the time thinking of new projects. But I'm thinking, because with Douglas Week, we obviously know very much how difficult it can be as well, and how many challenges there are. And I'm wondering, as an organizer of all of these events, because there's also lots of topics that some people are very uncomfortable with talking about, sharing, and it's difficult to be bold sometimes, and to hold up these values in the times that we live in. And I'm wondering, how do you find how do you find people to collaborate with? How do you approach this? And how do you approach the challenges that that we as organizers encounter all the time? And how do you motivate people to stand in the way of challenges, and people throwing hate crimes at each other? And how do you approach this as an organizer, and as someone who really wants to change something?
That's a loaded question. So first is how do I approach how do I approach how do I approach curating and deciding who to work with, right? It's like baking a cake, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying. Is it like baking a cake? I think, okay, the simple answer is I don't know. I don't know
What do
how
you
I do
start with?
it. Let's start with there. I'll be transparent, right? I don't know. I'll tell you how I will go with the many tongues of cork, right? So I put out a call for submission because I actively, if it's about if the goal is to bring more and more unheard voices to the front, to the surface, I have to be out of my comfort zone. And that takes energy, that takes labor, that takes time. And also a lot of honesty. So I put out a call for submission. And then I just go like Alice into this rabbit hole of looking out for people. I'm so chained to this desk. I don't even get to go out and like, you know, meet other people because it's just this here. And so I literally, my computer is my biggest tool of going and looking at people and what they're doing and finding out more about them. And then once I put the call for submission, and then just leave it in the ether, and it goes where it goes, but to actively push it, which means that oh, here comes Joe looking for more poets. Joe, I don't write poetry, can you just leave me alone? No, can you please just share something, so there's that, so there's the asking. And isn't it Amanda Palmer who talks about the power of asking? And my friend Chietska introduced me to Amanda Palmer's TED Talk, and I was like, that's literally me. It's like I am soul sister of Amanda Palmer. I'm right. This is good then. Asking, asking, asking. And that's why the value of gratitude is very central to Good Day Cork. So asking and meeting people when I can, either on Zoom or in person, and emailing and chatting on Instagram. See, I love that we have too many channels of communication. I think at the time that we're living, over communication is very good. It's exhausting, but it's also a good thing. So that's one thing in terms of how do I find people. I just go into that rabbit hole and look and look and look for people there. Um, it's always about finding new voices. You can get very comfortable in like, oh, the go-to people. But the go-to people also now know that it's time for newer, other, not new, but other people also to come. Sometimes these people are on the fringe. They're just watching the space until they feel everyone feels like I need to be a bit confident before I can share my piece. Whereas I'm like, just go for it. Just face the star, just go for it. But not everyone thinks like that, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is about holding space when there's difficult conversations going on, right? See, listening is the most important. And in spaces whether it's Wild Ones Salon. We did our Wild Ones conference last year, the first one after doing small salons over the year last year. We did a Wild Ones conference, and hopefully this year as well. And it is about throwing in the questions as stimulus for people to go there. And as someone who's the steward and holding space, it is about trying to make sure that everybody's still comfortable in that space. So there's always time set before an event to talk about what we're going to achieve here. And it might get uncomfortable, and it's okay to sit with it, because that's why we're here. Whether you knew this or not, well, we are going to get uncomfortable. And if you need time, please, it's okay to go. And it's okay also sometimes at some place, sometimes I would have the badges that you get them in I think a tiger, you know, the little placard that says leave me alone, or the equivalent in very colorful language. So I have those, and people can use them to be like, I don't want to talk right now, so I'm gonna, don't talk to me now, because, and that's everyone's right. The goal of getting people to come together is the biggest one. How they leave is all to do with intent versus impact. And then to create little tools for the people themselves who are in the space, so that they know that there is choice. I don't have to participate now. I am feeling uncomfortable, and that's okay. I don't need to talk right now. So to hold, you know, to hold people that way. So that's about creating that environment, and that genuinely comes from listening and practice. I'm not saying I got it right. I don't have it right. I always try to figure it out, and look at how other people are doing things in their spaces, and reading about and constantly reminding myself that the art of conversation is lost. It does not exist. We do live in silos now, and that's not how it used to be. I'm not privileged enough to have been in conversations growing up where they were highly political and talking about changing the world. But I have friends who have been, and they remind me of the good old days when people with opposing thoughts can have a conversation and still remain friends after. That's the part I don't understand. How? But that's freedom, no? And it's, and one of my favorite people in this world is Alok Menon, who is a poet and an activist in their own right. And Alok always says, love is the greatest resource. So listening is a skill, and love is the greatest resource. And there are days when my love is questioned, but I have love for the space. I have love for community care. I have love for people. I have love for myself as well. So what that means is that when someone is saying something opposing, instead of quickly canceling it, to really sit with it and to understand what is it that they're saying, because the goal, the desired outcome is to have more love, and that love then is free of judgment. In fact, it is the editor's letter that I've written. What did I write? Loving ourselves will make space for that inevitable growth, because, you know, with freedom there's growth. We grow, we evolve, we're designed to. So that growth will bring a renewed sense of commitment to understand that what we don't understand, love equals peace. So that's and unity. So yeah, I hope that answers something of,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, absolutely. And there's so much in there, Joe. I really like your kind of almost playful approach to creativity, to talk about very serious topics and very life-changing and topics, as well as themes that, some of us experience in different ways. You mentioned pain, mentioned challenge, you mentioned love, you mentioned, there's three of, they're very, very big topics in itself, but the way you approach things is it's just, I really admire your work, this, and I love, and I was just taking a few notes there. I love how you explained being the steward and holding this space, because I think it's listening and holding a space and making people comfortable when they are uncomfortable, and allowing them the space to feel that and not brush it off, like you said, but to sit with it and to grow in that moment, and to move forward together, especially in a community space or with others. And I really like the way you approach this, and I'm so glad that we get to talk about this, and I hope that our listeners and audiences are listening very well, and like you said, we don't have it figured out, but we can learn from each other. And I wanted to celebrate gratitude specifically today with you, because I'm very grateful that you took the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us and to share how you do things. And I know that there's lots going on. I know that you are collaborating with many community members, and that you do your very, very best to deliver the good news, and the good days, and the positive message to the people in Cork and Ireland. And I celebrate you for that, and I can't wait to hear what is gonna happen later this year. You mentioned the conference, and I kind of looking ahead. I know that you are working on a few things, but what is there anything that you could share with us? Any projects or any plans for the future that people might want to get involved in, people in Ireland and elsewhere, because we have a very international, very diverse audience here for Douglas Week. Just wondering if there's anything you would like to share with us, Joe, in terms of your plans.
Oh, thank you. You said the positives, and the one I will tell you about what is hopefully going to happen in the future. The one thing I do want to say is that I realized very early on, with help from people and also my own self-growth, that the magazine, the space, it is about uplifting, and it is about silver linings at the end. It is about silver linings. It's not about like, oh, it's all great. No, it's about it. There is a piece in here about how the body is changing. And and Deborah actually says, okay, I'm gonna finish my rant now. It's about always acknowledging all those big emotions. That's what Good Day Cork is about. It's constantly trying to give space to acknowledge what is troubling, and at the same time also what is empowering, and in doing that, there is a win, is a positive. So that's one thing. And how can people get involved? Just come onto the channels, sign up to the newsletter on Good Day Cork. If you're living in Ireland, get the zine. And if you're living in Cork, just stay tuned to all the calls for submission. Even if you're living in Ireland, and anyone in Ireland can submit. The next thing that's happening is the launch or the reveal of this zine. This is a zine that is created from we did a walk. We did a very simple walk in Cork, a guided tour, call it a safari of nature, of the small little trail. And then everybody was invited then, after doing the trail, to reflect. And the reflections are with illustrations, and it's multilingual as well. So all of the original illustrations are in a book, like an album. And I won't show that on here. But from that book, we created the zine because everybody should have it. And that's on the 18th of May, a very small, intimate venue in the library. And I want to reveal that artifact of a book and then give people. I have limited copies of it because I've only got funding to do, but I'm glad that I got the funding from Cork City Partnership to design and print these. That's one thing. And the other thing that I'm very excited to curate is to change many tongues, to give it a twist and call it the Young Tongues of Cork. I've been wanting to do this for so long, where want to invite younger people to share their thoughts through prose and poetry. So calling it the Young Tongues of Cork. So I don't know when that will be, but it will be this year. And yes, there's also the Wild Ones Conference. It's March now, right? And I don't know. because I haven't started. So I suppose the call, the request, the asking, here comes the asking. If you want to get involved in creating the Wild Ones conference with Good Day Cork, please get in touch in whatever capacity, helping to find speakers or money, if you have money and you want to give some money so that we could pay the speakers, we could get a nice venue that is an all accessible venue. There's a limitation of those in Cork, and the ones that are really, really good are so dear. Oh my goodness. So that's when funding helps, sponsorship helps, and all that helps. So I think that's a lot. And of course, there
Yeah.
will be another edition. There should be at least one more edition of Many Tongues. So a Young Tongues, a Many Tongues, a Wild Ones conference, and then there's the zines. And actually, I think that there is room for creative sponsorship, for people to just sponsor the whole content. Whole no, we're like, okay, love it. I don't care what you do. Here's the money. But I'm gonna manifest this. I want to manifest the angels who'll just be like, here's some yo-yos and make what you want to make. No questions asked. Is that even possible? I don't know.
I support that, Joanna, and I thank you for outlining everything that you're doing, for explaining and sharing and discussing and reflecting with us today. And yeah, please go to www.gooddaycork.com. Join Joanna in all the good things that she's doing. It's a wonderful, very uplifting conversation today, and I really want to thank you for that. But I also want to really, encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, and I encourage everyone who's listening to join Joanna. You heard the many ways that you can get involved, no matter if you're in Cork or elsewhere in Ireland, and hopefully internationally very soon as well. Do join her. She has many great projects coming up, and very much looking forward to that. And Joanna, I want to thank you for this. Thank you for doing the Douglas Dialogues conversation with us today. Very best of luck to you, and many thanks for joining us today, Joanna. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I say, for all the international people, there's loads of podcasts that Good Decor created. So just listen to those. They're amazing. And just please spread the word. I would, yeah, they're slow burners, but they're lovely. And that'll be great. Thank you. And thank you so much, Dr. Schroeter. Caroline, you're amazing. All of the team at Douglas Week is amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
Douglas Week to Cork and doing it in parallel in different places. And hopefully next year I will plan my life a little better and we can do something in person.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to that, Joanna. And like she said, join her on her social media, on her website. Watch out for the zines coming out and all the great projects that she's doing in Cork locally with the community. And yeah, go find her on social media and everywhere she is. And yeah, thank you so much, Joanna. And we were looking forward to learning more and seeing more of you in the next few years. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.